Zenless Zone Zero just had their 2.6 live stream. Somehow I woke up early enough to watch it, but hey, we're here now. Normally this doesn't happen. Now, this video might be a lot more off the cuff. I don't really have anything scripted because, again, I kind of just watched it, so a lot of things are fresh on my mind. But the most part being that I have two distinct opinions. Number one, I'm very disappointed in the new-ish. It's not new, they've been doing it. I don't really like the direction that they're taking Anomaly teams or Anomaly characters. And two, I think this might be the next big skip patch, if you will. However, this is a crucial patch for a lot of new players. If you spend money or get really lucky, let's talk about it. For those of you who might not have seen it or you're kind of catching up on things, we have 4 characters coming into the new 2.6 version of Zenless. We're going to have Sunna, which is going to be a physical support character. We're also going to have Yixuan running with her, being a Rupture Ether character, or Orc Ink, whatever, Ether. We're also going to have Aria, which is going to happen in the second phase, who's going to be another Ether character, but she's Anomaly. And then we're going to have Yuzuha being a physical support. You kind of see they're both physical and both Ether, right? Okay, cool. So both of these characters, or rather all 4 of these characters, are insanely beneficial to anybody's account. But there's a little bit of a nuance, if you will, when it comes to the 2 premier characters or 2 featured characters, those being Aria and Sunna. Now, I'm going to talk about this very briefly, but Aria and Sunna are hand in hand. However, they both work without each other, if that makes sense. More so Sunna. Aria doesn't need Sunna. She wants her a lot. But Sunna can work with YSG. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, I have YSG and I got Zhao for free. Wouldn't I want to go ahead and pull Sunna? And that's a possibility, right? Sunna being a support character would help you out, kinda. And I say kinda because this dictates how you're going to play your team, okay? And I'll just run through this real quick. Why I said I don't like the direction earlier was because over the last like 4 or 5 months, it really does feel like, minus Bonway, it feels like we've just been getting hyper carry. And what I mean by that is that a lot of these characters have been reworked or designed during their initial phase of the beta to the full release version, where they've gone from being a team working type of character and they have a little bit more uniqueness to their kit, and now they work just for free, offhand. They do whatever they want. And the new changes to Haramasa and Lycon, which we'll talk about briefly at the end of the video, they kind of point towards that direction as well. Lycon is now going from an on-field stunner to a half and half, which we all know is just going to turn him into an off-field stunner, because that's just typically what the community looks for. So now we have a character like Sunna, a new physical support character coming into the game that's going to be able to increase the attack for all of the agents in the squad and provide a little bit of additional damage for attack and Anomaly Agents. So this is going to be helpful for, as I said, YSG, if you have that character, or in the case of pulling another character, Aria. Yeah. But do those characters need that? Again, Aria doesn't really need it. She wants it. YSG definitely doesn't need it. She's perfectly fine right now. And running 2 supports is the same thing as you running 2 supports now. In the case of Zhao being a support, because Zhao kind of just doesn't do anything else, right? I hate that they're doing that with defense characters, but whatever. So you're not really changing anything. This isn't a demand. This isn't like some crazy one-up. Adding Sunna to your YSG team isn't going to make her go beyond 65k. Right now at M0, YSG is still taking out Deadly Assault at 65k. She's able to clear through the new Shiyu defense that a lot of people are having trouble with. YSG is 50k and get practically no problem. Giving yourself a Sunna won't help you get more, like, you know what I mean? It's not gonna help you. But I said that for newer players, this would be a good patch. So I'll break this entire thing down between new player and I guess current player, if that makes a little bit more sense. But we'll talk about it very briefly here. I'm going to go through all the characters and then we'll see that. And I'll also show you guys here. We can just kind of look at this together. Yeah. So we just talked about Sunna. Now we go over into Yixuan. Yixuan's case. Yixuan is going to be a character which I still believe is probably the second best or third best character in the game. Not in terms of damage output, but in terms of all around what this character provides. Yixuan is an all-arounder. She's an amazing character. And as I've said plenty of times before, she has no bad matchup. There is not a single thing in the game that is countering her at the moment. She has no negative matchup, so nothing that she is fighting is ether resistant as of right now. So everything that you can fight, she can, fair game, she can beat it. She can box it at a very neutral ground, or she can box it where she has the pure advantage versus that character, which is really good for her. And just like previous characters, she has a lot of team options right now that benefit her, but you do want to be prioritizing working into Rupture. So now we get into the whole concept of like, well, pulling reruns, or the fact that she is quote unquote the second Void Hunter in the game, or unofficial Void Hunter in the game. She doesn't have the actual tag, but she is basically a Void Hunter with all the special stuff she has in the game, right? We get into that. Why would I pull this when, you know, YSG just came out? Shouldn't I pull YSG instead of Yixuan? And yeah, that's an option for you. You could definitely do that. But if you're looking for having a stronger character that's a little bit more Rupture focused, then you would want to go with Yixuan. And again, personal preference, right? There's not really a like you should pull Yixuan over YSG, because again, it really just comes down to what you want to do. I'm not going to tell you like Yixuan's better than YSG. I'm not going to tell you that YSG is better than Yixuan, because I think YSG is like just cracked, but she was designed to be that way. They purposely pumped YSG's damage so that she was the strongest freeze character in the game. We go down to Aria next. Aria is going to be a character that is basically the easiest way for me to explain this is she is a YSG version of Anomaly. I know that might sound confusing, but based off the gameplay that I can show you guys right now, Aria is essentially a one button, you know, butt stomp everything in the game. There might be some tech that she has, like in Varissa's case from Genshin, who also butt stomps everything in the game, or butt slams everything in the game like she's Armika. She has a little bit of like dash mechanics or dash cancels that she can do that make her more optimized in this case. I don't know if Aria is going to have that. Right now, all I know is that Aria, from what they showed off and how she works by herself. She does not need another Anomaly character on the game. All she needs is that one trigger, and her being her own Anomaly character paired up with characters like Sunna or Yuzuha, she is going to be able to build up her own Anomaly meter insanely fast. Even without having an AM Dis 6, she's going to be able to build it up insanely fast. And if she works off of, hey, did I trigger an Anomaly? Oh, I did. A bloom, a bloom, a bloom, a bloom, a bloom. And then that's where all her damage is coming from. So I don't like YSG because YSG is boring, but I love the character, right? Just I don't like the gameplay. I love Aria because she's really cool design. Probably gonna like the gameplay, but you're really just pressing one button. It is what it is. We go down here into Yuzuha. I really don't have to spend too much time on Yuzuha, but Yuzuha is an amazing character. I think she is probably at this point the best support in the game. She gives the attack buffs equivalent to what Astra would provide. She's also giving you an insane amount of Anomaly buffs. I think it's like 4 or 5 different Anomaly buffs she gives, including her W engine. Without her W engine, I think it's 3 or 4, one of the two, but she's an incredible character. Every single Anomaly team wants Yuzuha on the team, except maybe Mono Ice, and that's if you just feel like breaking your fingers. If you don't and you want something easier, then you can play Yuzu Ice and call it a day, and she's still being able to 65k anything in Deadly Assault or 50k things in the new Shiyu defense, which is kind of like the standard that we're going with, right? But that's it. She works with everybody. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, it is what it is, right? If you want to pull Aria, then Yuzuha works with her too, and you just call it a day. If you want to use Yuzuha and Sunna, you could absolutely do that, and that's probably going to be the best team for Aria, because again, Aria doesn't need another Anomaly character. Now she does want stun, so maybe that'll change with now Gong, I think is how you pronounce it, in the other girl coming into the Angels of Delusion, right? Or maybe we end up using Trigger, who knows? But let's talk about the differences between each of these characters. Why did I say earlier that this is going to be a patch that a lot of players are way more comfortable to skip, except for new players? And then even then, new players are going to end up spending, right? So I'll talk about some advice for spending if you want to, just briefly, but I'm not telling you to break free to play. I'm only saying why it would be beneficial for you. Right now, we have the spending event that essentially, if you spend, I think it's 140, I don't know the exact number, but it's 100 something. If you spend money, you get the free character, right? You get like a free whatever and the W engine, which means I'm looking at Bernice. I'm not looking at anybody else. You could look at Qingyi, but like right now, for the sake of what I'm talking about and the characters on this banner, the only options you're looking at is Qingyi or Bernice, okay? Why Qingyi? Because Yixuan. If you don't have Dailin, if you don't have anyone else that's gonna help, like a Jufufu, then Qingyi and Yixuan go hand in hand. They love each other, okay? But then the other characters, you have Bernice, which would be in the case of like picking up Aria. You don't need Bernice for Aria, but what it would do is it would allow you to hold on to the actual character selector and then pick and decide who you want to use. So if you went for Aria or you went for Sunna and you're like, you know what, I really want to play Jane, can Sunna work with Jane? And now you have the option to pick that, essentially giving you 2 free limited characters, not even 2, 3, because you would have more than enough pools to do that, both paid and free to play. But again, this is just mild advice for my fellow sharks out there that are comfortable spending money. Now I'm going to talk about the purely free to play aspect behind this, which of course is going to roll into the new player stuff that we were talking about before. This is a new player patch. New players are coming in just like with YSG, grabbing Aria, and she has an insanely great free-to-play team. You don't need anything else. That's it, right? You could skip Sunna if you wanted to. You don't need Sunna. You pick up Aria and you call it a day. You're done, because she is a hyper carry character who happens to benefit from Anomaly. This allows you to play characters like Lucy on your team if you wanted to do something like that, along with Seth, right? Because Seth is still going to be a great Anomaly buffer for a lot of different characters. And with her being the main character on the field who really doesn't have to switch off at all, you now actually get value out of Seth's really tanky shield. So something like that, a team like that would be very beneficial for Aria. The list goes on and on, right? I'm not going to name every single team that works with Aria. Point being is that she's a very free-to-play friendly DPS, so that benefits you. And so now, coming off of the patch with YSG having been here for about a month and a half, right? You're guaranteed YSG plus enough pulls to go enroll into something else. The new player would also be able to grab Aria because she's going to be 2 banners away. So in total, you're about 2.5 months worth of saving to be able to get YSG, and then you get Aria, which would be a great pickup for a brand new account, because now you have your attack DPS, you have your anomaly DPS, both of these teams or both of these DPS being self-pilots or self-drivers, right? They pilot themselves. You don't have to think. They don't have any crazy advanced tech that you have to worry about to get an insane amount of damage, and their teams are incredibly free to play to build. YSG's best partner being Zhao, giving to her for free, right? So this helps out a lot of the new players tremendously if you joined in on this particular patch. If you skipped YSG or you're coming in just for the AOD, I wouldn't recommend you do that. But if you did, same thing applies. You just, unfortunately, you would have missed out on some insane pulls. If you're just starting the game because AOD is now in the game, and you missed out on everything that was here for the YSG patch, tough tits, bro. I don't know what else to tell you on that, but like, you literally missed over 100 and something pulls for free, like just flat out free. You missed over 100 something pulls. I don't know how else to help you on that part, because you can't just make up a free 100 and something pulls, but alas. And then of course we have Yuzuha. So in the event you can get Aria very cheap or early on, you also get Yuzuha. This also applies to the spenders that I was talking about earlier, but you kind of see what I'm going with. Now, why did I say this was expensive? Because you want everything. If you go for Yixuan, it's kind of the safest bet, but you also want her W engine. And then you're going to want a partner for Yixuan. So I would say let's eliminate Yixuan real quick. Yixuan would not be for the new player. YSG is for the new player right now. If you're brand new, grab YSG, skip Yixuan. Yixuan is for the current players or players who've been playing for a few months and they don't have their strong rupture unit. They didn't go for Bonway. They don't want to build Minato. They don't have Yidhari. And so now they have the opportunity to pick up Yixuan. You grab Yixuan. Sunna, you want Sunna, and you want Yuzuha, and you want Aria. That is going to be her current most expensive team. However, you don't need Yuzu. Why? Because the AOD works with themselves. Aria, Sunna, and Nangwang. That's it. That's the team. So if you have enough to save up for all 3 of them, awesome. I'm not going to mention W engines just yet. They're not super dependent on their W engines, but I'm always going to say you want these versus not having them. A character like Sunna might not need hers, to be honest, and same thing with Nangwang, but it depends. Nangwang is going to be our first anomaly-based stunner who's an actual stunner. So she might actually want her engine. I would say keep an eye out for that. And so rounding that out, it comes down to your priorities. If you're looking for your anomaly DPS, Aria, of course, is your main priority. And then after that would be Sunna. But if you know you can spare it because Sunna is going to be first, you would go ahead and pull Sunna and then save for Aria. And that would be your game plan. If that's not the case and you don't have enough for it, skip Sunna. Go for Aria, just remain free to play for a little bit. Hope you get a Yuzuha, you know, like just lucky random 10 pull. I don't know, but Aria is your main focus. I don't really have a way to tell you like this is top priority and then number 2 and then number 3 because it doesn't exist. Everything depends on what you want in your account. I cannot tell you that Yixuan is the better pull over Sunna because 2 completely different realms of what you're pulling these characters for, right? I can't tell you that Yuzuha is the better pull over Sunna, even though she might be, but if your goal is the Angels of Delusion, then Yuzu is not the best pull. You see what I'm saying? So it really just comes down to that. Now, at the last little bit here, let me go ahead and talk to you guys about like why I don't like the direction of what's going on. A lot of you guys know me. If you don't, hey, Amiyo, I despise hyper carry. Not because I think it's bad, not because I think it's dumb. I don't personally like, I personally do not like hyper carry because it doesn't allow me to get as creative as some of the other options in the game. And so I don't want to harp on that for too long. I just want you to understand where I'm coming from when I say like, I'm not a fan of hyper carry and why I'm not a fan of hyper carry. Now I'm going to go on to explain why I was a big fan of Anomaly and for a little bit Rupture when it came to the team structure and gameplay in Zenless Zone Zero. So back in the good old days of the Xbox, Anomaly units were basically a two-man squad, right? You had your one character in the middle, usually being a support or a stunner, and then you had a main Anomaly DPS and then a sub Anomaly DPS. You could think of this as anything really. This could be your Bernice, this could be your Vivian, this could be your Nagi, which is my personal preference. You could even run Miyabi and Alice if you wanted to, right? Or Piper and Miyabi. It doesn't really matter. Point being is that Anomaly was so amazing at working off of each other because that's what they did. And the benefit they got from that was disorder damage, and disorder damage was insane. So now you get characters that buff disorder damage like Yuzuha and Nagi, and I believe Alice as well. And it makes them so much stronger as a team core. But we've gone to a point now where that's not happening anymore. Right now, they're pushing this new wave of Anomaly DPS where it's primary Anomaly DPS #1, stunner, and then support, or in actual reality, primary DPS who's Anomaly, and then 2 support characters on top of that. So you're removing the concept of Anomaly altogether, and you're turning Anomaly teams into attack teams. Like, that's basically what they are, is bona fide attack teams, and I hate it. I'm not a fan of this at all, because at that point, why would I would just play an attack team, right? Oh, but Anomaly has this. Anomaly is losing its advantage every single patch. The main buff, if you will, why Anomaly was so strong, or one of the reasons Anomaly was so strong for the longest time, was because it was the power of 2 DPS characters essentially on one team with the same supports. You didn't have to do, maybe it cost a little bit more work, who knows, right? But the main point being is that you essentially had more power, you had more control, it was more fun for a lot of people, and you had more opportunity to do whatever it was. You also had more type advantage or match advantage, right? Matchups. You had a better or stronger, more consistent round of how you dealt with matchups in the game. So now that we've moved away from that and gone into this weird, like, Anomaly teams are turning into attack teams, they're forced to have Yuzuha or potentially Sunna, depending on what her kit does. It just breeds this whole double support plus Anomaly DPS kind of thing, which is again jumping into the attack comp realm. And I would just play attack comps, and it's worse because now we have characters like Orphe and characters like Seed that essentially are doing what Anomaly did without the disorder part, right? And so they're missing what made Anomaly, or one of the factors that made Anomaly so strong, but now they have the team support to back it up. And the same thing happens a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if we started to get double Rupture units as well. But you know, now we're seeing these characters like Zhao or Yuzu, or in this case, again, possibly Sunna, where these characters are able to buff up both attack types or multiple attack types on the same team, and they're providing the same support levels that a character like Astra would provide. If you've noticed, a lot of the characters lately are providing these massive attack buffs closer to Astra, some being equal, some being more, some being less. But the point being is that, you know, if, hey man, Astra might give me 1200 attack boost, but this other character gives me 950 or 1050, but I get 1000 attack and I get all these other benefits that help both of my characters on the team. I'm just going to use this one support and then play these other characters on the team as well. And you get a massive benefit from being able to do that. Now, of course, this doesn't really affect everyone, and I understand that a lot of people really do enjoy hyper carry because they only care about the one character. They don't care about the other characters. They're not really in tune or in depth with playing the actual team and pulling out all of the advantages of said team, right? They don't care, and that's fine. But I'm saying that I don't like this, and I don't want to say that I think this is a problem for the game. I do, but that's not fair for me to say because I'm not in the position to dictate what would be better or worse for the game based off a large audience, right? An audience that I can't see. Why I think this would be problematic is because you're essentially removing the identity behind Anomaly. If Anomaly turns into attack DPSs or the attack style, right? The attack type of a comp, at that point, they're the same thing. And we already have that issue right now with Rupture and attack agents. If YSG hadn't released when she did, and even to be fair, people are still considering her a Rupture agent because her kit is basically a Rupture kit. It's ridiculous. So it's like, there's no point. The same thing with defense agents, right? Defensive agents, which should be primarily for survivability and defense with a little bit of stun, like just a mixed bag of things that help a team, right? You have this option to run a defense over a stunner or defense agent over a support agent, right? That's what they're supposed to be for. But now defense agents are just bona fide support characters, and we can all see that. Rupture agents are just bona fide attack agents, but better, right? And so now we're getting to this point, Anomaly agents are becoming attack agents, without the actual anomaly behind it. If you paid attention to the actual gameplay that happened with Aria, and it was very brief, it's super, like, this is the shortest character trailer display thing I've seen from the live stream in a long time. Very brief for both Sunna and Aria. No disorders at all. When they played that team, no disorders. And so maybe there might be a way where I could play Aria, Sunna, or Yuzu and Bernice, and maybe I can get some disorders off that way. But I don't see that happening right now with the information that I'm aware of and that I know about the character, because the character is literally Armika butt slam times 50. That's my damage. It's so brain dead, very similar to how YSG is, where it's more beneficial for you to do less work and skip out on manual chain attacks or chain attacks altogether. Don't use other people's ultimates. Like, she is brain dead. I don't want more anomaly characters like that. And as much as I love Aria, I love that design. I love the Angels of Delusion. They're super cool. I like the whole idol, the pop idol thing they got going on, the K-pop thing they got going on, and the story element behind that. I want them to stop making anomaly characters like that. Go back. Bring me another Yanagi. That's what I want, right? Make another disorder focused DPS anomaly or sub DPS anomaly. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want. But again, that's me. You might not agree with that, and that's totally okay. You're more than welcome to respectfully leave those comments down below, but I'm gonna get out of here. I don't want to waste too much more of your time. Consider this the should you pull or not pull. I know it's a way more off the cuff, but like I said, this was, I didn't have to script this because these characters are so, it's just right in your face, right? Like the answer is nuanced, but it's so easy to answer by just asking yourself a couple questions. What am I looking for on my account? What am I building right now? And what am I trying to build in the future? Am I a free to play or a light spender? Do I care about, you know, like spending money, a couple hundred, or do I not care about it? Do I have it or do I not have it? Ask yourself those questions, and I promise you, answering all of like who you should pull, everything makes way more sense. But I gotta get out of here. I can't say my user outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Smell you later. You got to get behind that.
A lot of this was just me not knowing the fight.
Yeah. Right here, you don't even got to pop that ult.
At all.
Oh, yeah. No. My eyes.